Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and after another disastrous PMQs for Rishi Sunak earlier in the week, I'd like to discuss the way the Prime Minister has continued to play the political game very, very poorly, feeding his opponents easy lines of attack, filming himself breaking the law, making me wonder if he's got any worthwhile strategic advisors at all. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, you sometimes see young cretins filming themselves breaking the law in some way, thinking it's a good laugh, and then not following through on the line of thought that posting the footage in a public space is likely to have the police knocking on your door. You don't expect it of the Prime Minister, but yet that's exactly what he's done yesterday. Of course, there may be a knock at the door. There may be a knock at the door from the police. But unless there's a really large public outcry, as with Partygate, I would think it's unlikely, that any serious consequence will be coming, whether in terms of a police fine or in terms of media scrutiny. Rishi Sunak, in an ill-judged attempt to demonstrate his charms and win over the peasants, filmed a short video where he reminded people that he had promised to grow the economy and that he was announcing his next tranche of money from the Levelling Up Fund. Needless to say, of course, the allocations are all to Tory areas, including very affluent Tory areas like Richmond, his own seat. Not so much levelling up as the same pork barrel politics that the Tories engaged in before the last election, and the one before that, and the one before that as well. Basically, when the Conservatives are in power, it's the same old story. Just as they're gearing up for a general election, they turn the money tap on for target voters, not for the whole country, of course, then sharply turn it off again once the election's won. It's like, look, we had these tough times. The money's coming now. We've done well. We're round the corner. Blue skies ahead. Vote for us again, otherwise Labour will knacker it. And then they go, oh, brilliant. Oh, it's going to carry on to the next Parliament. Oh, yeah, sun lit up, lads. Next election comes and goes. They've won again. Tap off. But the allocation of funds is for another time if I discuss that. The point was that he filmed this as a little segment from the back of his prime ministerial car, and some idiot had probably said, Prime Minister, you're a bit constrained, that you need to turn to face the camera properly. Take your seatbelt off. Well, the car's moving, and the car is clearly fitted with a seatbelt. That means Rishi Sunak was breaking the law. Now, there are a list of exemptions regarding seatbelts published on the government website. None of them include recording a video for the public or anything remotely close to it. Now, when I first saw it, I actually seriously wondered if it was a dead cat. Something to distract the non-Tory media from discussing the corrupt way he was about to throw a load of public money at Tory areas again. But if this was the intention, it would have been a strategic blunder. Fortunately for him, although the video did the rounds on social media and may get a little bit of traction if he does get fined, it did not seem to break through on the national news media that I can see. It would be a disaster for his image if the media went ahead with this. Because consider what he's doing. He's breaking the law in a way that can attract a fine of up to £500. Now, if I filmed myself like this, and put it online, people would alert the police. Oh, they go, you're outrageous. And the police would be contacting me. There's no way I'd get away without a fine, because putting it online and being seen to get away with it would just encourage others to do the same. Oh, well, they didn't just not wear a seatbelt or in the car, in a moving car. They posted it online for all to see. Oh, and they got away with it. That just encourages the rest of us to do the same. But the Prime Minister won't be fined over this, or is very unlikely to. I can't imagine he's going to be the second sitting Prime Minister within the space of a year to have been fined for a criminal offence. And the only person to have done so is both Chancellor and Prime Minister. Bear in mind, Sunak was fined last year. But Lancashire police do say they're looking at it. But, cynical old me is thinking, what's the betting that later on they just say, oh, we've spoken to the Prime Minister, we've advised him of the law, and we'll leave it at that. But therein lies the blunder. If this had received widespread interest, if this was front page news, as it could have been, as it would have been for a Labour Prime Minister, it would be seen by the public as one rule for them, another for us. This is exactly what caused Boris Johnson's downfall. The idea that Johnson did not follow his own rules. The rest of us were tightly bound by them, but not him. Johnson dispelled this notion that he was one of us, we're all in it together. It was never true, of course, but people didn't realise that until Partygate. This is on a lower level, but it's the same attitude of rules don't apply to me because I'm special. It doesn't have to be on a large scale. Remember, Owen Paterson started the rot with Boris Johnson's popularity. No one knew who Owen Paterson was, but that was just and that was a corruption issue. But people didn't like the fact he was going to get off scot-free because he was a Tory. This can, even without widespread public attention to this issue, it can easily be something opposition parties use in their own campaign materials now. Like, if he keeps pulling stunts like this, easily included, they could do a little compilation video of examples of Sunak failing to follow the rules laid down for the rest of us. One rule for them. That'll be the title of the video, come election campaign time. One rule for them. But then what if the police do fine him? What if my cynicism is misplaced and the police actually do fine him? The amount is immaterial. It doesn't have to be the full £500. It doesn't matter what it is. He will have been fined for a second criminal offence inside a year. That'll surely attract some headlines. Consider that Sunak has opponents even in the Tory media. So he gets away with the rule breaking because Tories in the media don't care about rule breaking. They're all for that. But he may not get away with being fined, Oh, he's bringing the party into disrepute again. He's just created a mess for himself there. Why wasn't he advised against doing it? I mean, one thing I'll say, he'd better have a good response ready for PMQs next week, because Starmer may well have something else to go at like he did this week, so he may not bring it up, but there will definitely be someone bringing it up. Some backbencher will raise the issue. Now, on a related man, because it's of political strategic interest, I will just put it out. So Dan Needle. Now, this is the guy I've mentioned before. He was at Nadim Zahawi like a dog with a bone over his tax affairs this summer. He was threatened by the former Chancellor for discussing it publicly. So he posed a question. It's a good question. He asked, so Rishi Sunak has apologised for this seatbelt situation, right? So why is that more newsworthy than, say, Nadim Zahawi, who has not apologised for failing to pay nearly £4 million in taxes? Now, it is an interesting question. Now, my particular view of it, having sort of followed politics and political news for a long time, is as follows. So, first of all, when it comes to public interest, the person involved is a much bigger factor than the seriousness of the crime. Like, consider Partygate, for example. The media ran with that story for months. Months. But in that time, there were people being convicted of murder, armed robbery, rape, other serious crimes. You go, okay, well, the media focuses on Downing Street parties. Now, it is serious. It's not as serious as the most serious crimes. No one's suggesting the Prime Minister should have been banged up for 20 years, at least not seriously. But it's because it was the Prime Minister, the one who makes the rules, the one who should be setting an example for the nation to follow, a public figure. Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. Nadim Zahawi is a public figure, but he's the Tory party chairman. Don't get me wrong. The media should be reporting on Zahawi because on multiple levels it's of immense public interest. It's not even a simple case of tax evasion. It goes deeper than that. But it's all about the clicks. Even for the media, without a strong reason to cover for the government, it's all about the clicks. Sunak trumps Zahawi. But there's another reason as well. Sunak's blunder is relatable. I don't mean that there are people all over the country refusing to wear seatbelts all the time, but it's the sort of thing you can imagine. You can imagine for some weird reason you don't wear your seatbelt in a moving car. You get caught. You're fined by the police. You know that's going to happen. So if Sunak doesn't get fined by the police, those people will go, well, hang on a minute. If I'd been caught in the same circumstances, I would absolutely be fined. And they will be outraged at the Prime Minister filming himself breaking the law in this way and sharing the video online doesn't get fined. Zahawi's tax situation is different. People can't relate. They can't imagine what it's like having so much money that you can't keep track. Also, most people don't fill in tax returns. No need to. If you're salaried, your employer does it on your behalf via the PAYE system. So they don't know what it's like. Some people, if they want to be charitable, and bear in mind, a lot of people are charitable toward them. They're not partisan. And they think to themselves, well, you know, I mean, I sometimes make a mess filling forms. I imagine tax returns are incredibly complicated. I suppose it is possible to make innocent mistakes. They give him the benefit of the doubt. They can't relate. That's why, despite the fact that neither potential criminal behaviour is really getting the media attention that it should, Sunak's potential crime is much more newsworthy. He is a more important public figure. The situation is more relatable. It's also why it's a stupider move from Sunak than Zahawi, not least of which because people were bound to point it out. Why on earth doesn't Sunak have better advisors? Because no decent aide would have allowed him to do that. There was an aide behind that camera. They should not have allowed him to do that. In fact, they were probably the ones who suggested it. But I'm going to discuss, I think, the vacuum of good political advice surrounding Sunak in another video. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.